Hello and welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. Today I have Jordan Syatt back for another episode. I had him back on at 240 and I also had his partner in his business, Susan Niebergall, on episode 245. And they, and I guess we both come together on trying to share the realities of what we see on social media, being them only sharing positives, them only showing the highlight reels. Oh my God, this is easy. I'm doing this. I'm already 1 year, 5 years, 7 years into the journey. People that make this a lifestyle, which is completely different from where you're starting out, which can make you feel less than. And just before I hit record, something that I brought up is that ever since the pandemic that we went through, I feel like a lot of people are finding it harder to commit. I don't know whether it's that we haven't worked through what just happened, or the fact that a lot more people trying to take it on their own and then spinning their wheels. But I'm going to let Jordan and put his little, I guess, observation into this.
I think there's a lot. I think there are many factors that have been going on. Number one, I know for a fact, mental health has been one of the greatest downfalls during the pandemic. I think people have been drastically negatively affected due to the pandemic in terms of what actually happened, in terms of the families of people who died, and also as a result of the restrictions imposed on everybody as a result of it, and people just being stuck in place for so long. And then the continuation of that being, life has now changed so drastically. We need to leave the house so much less. Things have adapted now. It's been a very long 2 weeks, and businesses have had a lot of time in order to adjust. And so now you can do everything from home. Working from home, you can order groceries delivered directly to your house. You don't even need to leave. And while it's convenient, I don't think it's good for mental health. So I think mental health has been a major component of that. I think globally, the economy has seen some real issues as a result of it as well, which has caused it's been more difficult for people to sign up for coaching and to stay on with coaching in regard to the payments as well. But if I were to really guess, and there are many more to discuss, if I were to guess what the biggest issue is, I'll say one more. Another one is, as a result of the pandemic and people changing jobs or being let go, there's been a massive influx of more coaches online making content. And what's been really interesting to see is, since the advent of social media and smaller personal brands growing, we've seen the demise of larger brands. Huge brands that are nameless and faceless, that are just large companies, have really gone down the drain. And we see them closing all the time, whether it's in fitness or even outside of fitness. You could even look in like the clothing industry or the makeup industry. These big industries and brands and companies are actually losing because smaller brands that people feel more connected to with these individuals are actually doing much better. So they've lost out on a ton of money and business that way. So the mental health, the economic aspect, and then also the abundance of more people that you could choose to hire has made it, I think, very difficult on the industry as a whole. But if I had to really pinpoint one that I think is the biggest issue of all, I think it's the mental health component. And ironically, being more consistent with exercise and nutrition and hiring someone and having more accountability would help with mental health. It will get you out of the house. It'll get you moving more. It'll improve so much of what you're doing. But I think, as anyone who's ever struggled with mental health can attest to, sometimes the hardest part of getting out of a mental health slump or a real mental health issue is just doing something, doing anything, taking any action whatsoever. And I think that's, if I had to put my 2 cents in, that would be, we have a big mental health crisis, and having coaches and content creators focus on that to try and help people to take action is, I think, one of the best things we can be doing.
Especially because of the influx of, maybe we can commit to this, or there's this program. There's a lot of, I guess, people trying to get numbers. I say numbers because they're not really clients. There's not really that personal touch and thing people that actually care about them, like coaches that actually care about them as a person, as a client. It's more so just getting numbers in the door. And I guess bodybuilding coaches or people that just have lost, I see a lot of people posting in like groups where they lose a lot of weight or they're competing something, and then people start asking them, oh, what did you do? This is amazing. What a massive transformation. What's your program like? What's your diet like? Can you tell me this? And then they get an influx of people in their inbox and they sign up to not really coaches, but people that think they know what they're doing. And then that kind of takes them down a different spiral. That's one element of it. But then the other element of it is, like we were talking about in the last podcast together, we're only seeing that before and after. We're not seeing what happened behind that. We're not seeing what was sacrificed, what they were willing to do, what they weren't willing to do. What happens after that? Is this something that you can actually sustain when life happens? And then, because of this sour tasting coaching, because there's so many bad coaches out there, so many bad trainers, I'm sure you hear about it as well, but they find it hard to commit again. They find it hard to trust themselves again. They find it hard to trust the process and put in the patience, because what if this happens? What if that happens? So you're really good in this, in laying out what to expect at the start when you're committing for a long-term change and truly taking an approach that sustains you for a lifetime, that teaches you, that takes you through the different phases of maintenance, diet breaks, dieting, and what to realistically expect. So how can you set someone off on that journey and keep that tunnel vision without them going, oh, but I need to do it all. I need to master this. I need to add this in. Oh, I'm going really well. Maybe we can speed it up and add this in and add this in.
It's a wonderful question. And this, what you're describing now, this is the importance of individualization. A lot of people think that individualization is you get your own unique program that has all these unique exercises and set and rep schemes and rest periods that are just so unique to you, and no one else should have the same program. It's actually, I couldn't disagree with that more. The vast majority of programs a coach writes are going to look very similar, unless you're working with an extremely diverse set of population, right? Like if you're working with a professional basketball player and then you're also working with 84-year-old woman who just like wants to improve her health, those programs will look very different. But for the vast majority of people, if you are a general population coach, the vast majority of programs will look very similar. If you're a coach for elite athletes, many of those programs will look very, very similar. So individualization is often less about the program and more about responding to the things that you're mentioning right now about the client. Like there will be some clients who are struggling to do anything at all. And maybe you're starting them off with the bare minimum, just walking. Let's just get 5,000 steps a day. That's the first thing we're going to start with. And that might be unbelievably difficult for that person. Whereas you might have another client who you got them doing 10,000 steps a day. You've got them doing 3 sessions of zone 2 a week. You've got them lifting 4 times a week, and they're loving it. And they still want to do more. And they're like, but I want to do HIIT, and I want to do this, and I want to run a marathon, and I want to compete in powerlifting, and I want to, like, they want to do everything. And so this is where individualization really comes into play. How do you speak with each person? Because each of these people have a problem, but the problems are drastically different. And so to the person that you're talking about, the person who just wants to keep adding more, keep adding more, keep adding more, this is where motivational interviewing, I think, really comes into play. And motivational interviewing is there's a text called Motivational Interviewing, a book that's the title of the book, but it's essentially a strategy developed by psychologists to help patients, because it was originally developed for alcohol and smoking cessation, but now like we've realized we can use it in every aspect of our life, especially helping people with their fitness. It's a way of speaking to your clients that help them come to the realization and understanding on their own without you needing to tell them. And I think this is one of the most important things to understand. It's basic human psychology 101. If you tell another adult what to do, the vast majority of the time, even if they're paying for you to tell them what to do, they're going to say fuck off and not do it. They're going to get defensive about it. They're going to be like, it's like butting heads. Now, I'm not talking about if someone hires you to write their training program, then they're probably going to be happy that you write their training program. But if you tell another adult, hey, you need to eat more vegetables, oftentimes they're going to take that with very defensively and dig their heels in and often not even eat more vegetables. If you have someone who's like, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that, and you're like, hey, you're doing too much, calm down, oftentimes they're going to meet that with resistance and be upset about it. But if you phrase it, instead of saying, hey, stop doing so much, calm down, instead of saying that, if you say something like, hey, let's go over everything you're doing, let's look at your training program, your nutrition, your cardio, looking at everything, do you think we should be adding more, staying the same, or doing less? Tell me what you think. And from there, then they can objectively analyze it and they can say, you know what? Like, I'm doing a lot. I didn't even realize I was doing this much. Maybe we stay here for another 8 weeks and see how it goes. And that way you get them to tell you what they should be doing rather than just trying to shove the right answer down their throat. One of my favorite quotes it's a quote for teachers, but I consider coaches teachers in many, many ways. My job is not to tell you what to see. My job is to show you where to look. And I think a lot of coaches, they know the right answer. They know what their client should be doing, and they get impatient. And they just say, well, just do this. And then they're met with resistance from the client and they don't know why. It's like, you're paying me to do this, but this is basic human psychology. This is how it works. In the same way that coaches will tell their clients, hey, you need to be patient, coaches also need to be patient with the process and understand change doesn't usually happen just from you saying, hey, you need to do this. If that was the case, then people would they would have stopped smoking cigarettes years and years and years ago. It's not as easy as just saying stop doing this or do this. It's more about how can I get them to come to the answer on their own through a longer process, through a longer discussion based conversation.
It's really important as well, I guess, on the client's behalf, because it's all good and well for us to put these questions to them, but a lot of the time they expect the answers to be fed to them, which can make it really difficult because on the same topic, no one is a master of your life like you are, and you know what is realistic for you. You know what you're going to push resistance up against as well. It's good to come to that conclusion together and to figure out what you are willing to do, what you can do, what you can't do. What do you think is realistic right now? Because every habit that you do has a reason for you to keep repeating that habit, which is why you will still do negative habits. Like, it's serving you in some way, even if you're not aware of it serving you. It might be like a comfort thing. It can be, I remember when I was back in my disordered eating days where I would keep repeating the same habit because it's like, oh, well, it's not like I'm getting obese from this. It's not like I'm gaining weight from this. So it's not that big of a deal for me to deal with. Even though it had all these other negative repercussions, it wasn't impacting me in such a way that I really needed to just bite the bullet to change it. It's like until you hit like rock bottom, or until you hit a point where you just have to freaking change, that there's no other option because it's just impacting you so much, you're going to keep repeating those same habits, which is where you need to step back and realize, how is this actually impacting you? And I'm sure you can add more to that as well. But every habit you're doing, ask yourself, how is this serving you? Why is this something that you're not changing? But another question I love is, what would you regret not having changed in 3 years, in 5 years? And what emotions and behaviors do not belong in the future, and why? And what will happen if those things still keep moving forward? Because if you're a mum, that relationship with food, that whatever is going on, isn't going to serve your want to be a better role model, your want to actually show up better for the kids, to be more confident around them, because the food is controlling you. Your fears are controlling you. You aren't controlling them. You aren't the one that's, I hate saying controlling, it's more like you aren't managing them. You aren't able to, I guess, titrate them up and down to any situation. It's more that they control you. They enhance in moments where you're highly emotional, you're highly stressed. Maybe you can say something on that too, just to sum up that point.
Give me a little bit more context in regard to like what you're referring to.
So when people really want to change habits, when people realize what they're doing isn't serving them, they keep repeating that same habit because it's serving them in some way that they're unaware of.
Could you give me an example of a certain habit?
Okay, so someone has a lot of life going on. I'm just going to throw a different one than the one I said. Someone has a lot going on with life. So the thing that they keep moving to is emotional eating, comfort eating. They just grab fast food, whatever is around, when they know that in order to feel better, they need to start giving themselves better, healthier food options. They need to actually get outside and walk more. They know that the small steps of just getting fresh air, filling themselves with nourishing foods is going to lead to that momentum, but they keep going to the comfort foods and the the comfort food of the emotional eating.
Yeah. You know, habit change is unbelievably difficult. It's very, very difficult. And I'm glad you're bringing this up because it's something that I think everybody wants to change some habits that they have. There's some, like everyone, there's not a single person in the world who is just completely happy with everything they're doing. There's something that they're like, hey, I need to stop doing this. I need to start doing this. One of the things that I'll do when I'm working with someone, let's say using the example you just used, like they have the comfort food and they just keep using the comfort food and they know like, hey, listen, maybe I in their mind, they're like, I need to stop doing this. I need to start doing this. A very simple mindset shift that I'll have clients go through is it's very difficult to just stop something cold turkey and to add something cold turkey to your schedule. I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to start doing this. What I usually like to have people do is I try and get them to replace one behavior with another. Now, this is also very, very difficult. Adding into like I think about this in terms of food as well. One of the first things people will do with when they start a diet is like, all right, I'm going to stop eating this food and I'm only going to eat this food. It's like, yeah, good luck. That might work for a week at best, but like after a while, you're going to revert back to your old habits of what you're eating. It's one of the reasons why something like keto is just usually a shit idea, because telling someone to just stop eating carbohydrates, like good luck. It's just not that easy to do. But in terms of behavioral patterns and changes, especially like going from comfort food to this, the first thing I'll say is, listen, rather than stopping it altogether, how about instead of immediately going for that, your first response is to start doing the action you want to have. We're not taking away the comfort food. This is, I think, vitally important to have from the very beginning, because if you immediately take it away, it does a number of things. Number one, it can be very overwhelming and they can feel a lot of FOMO, and all of a sudden it will start to take up a lot of space in their mind. I don't want to just say you're not allowed to have it anymore. I want to say you are absolutely allowed to have it, but first, let's go on a walk. Let's just take, before you decide to have it, let's take a 15 or 20-minute walk. And if after the walk you still want it, go for it. You are more than welcome to have it, and there's nothing wrong with having it. The interesting part that I've noticed as a result of it is the impulse to have it, I'd say 80% of the time is gone once they've done the walk. And equally, if not more beneficial, once they've started the walk, they just want to keep walking. Oftentimes, they're either listening to a good podcast, they decided to call someone when they're on the walk, and now they're out and they're walking more, having a great conversation, connecting with someone, and they're not just alone eating comfort food by themselves. 20% of the time, they'll get back after the walk and be like, fuck it, I'm going to eat this comfort food. Great. And there's no guilt associated with it because they're allowed to have it. When you have the guilt associated with it, that's when it often becomes a binge, and that's when it becomes a repeating cycle. So for me, it's not about stopping one and starting another. It's allowing for one, but first doing the other. It's a slight addition to what you're doing as opposed to a complete removal and then a complete addition.
I have this saying where it's like, it takes a habit to replace a habit. And one of the greatest behavioral coaching elements that you can think of is, if you focus on the thing you want to avoid or the pain or whatever it is, you're still emphasizing that thing because what you focus on expands. But if you think about everything that you want to become, how you want to feel, how you want life to look, and get so visually clear on it, because I remember even visualizing gripping the Erling on the bar when I was powerlifting before, just visualizing everything as though it's this big cinematic montage really boosted my performance because I felt how I wanted to feel. I felt so powerful, even just sitting down. Oh, hello.
My
Even
camera decided to come on out of nowhere. All right, perfect. Like it was on, but it wasn't working. Now it's working.
Yay! Yeah, I felt so powerful even just sitting down staring at the bar. If you can put that into how you want to feel when you show up every day, confident, actually showing up in photos, like all the things that pull you to the person you want to be, that is going to be a greater desire than how shit you feel, picking yourself apart, body checking all the time. All those things that you want to avoid are only going to keep coming up, and it's going to be like, oh, I need to avoid this. I need to avoid this, but it's still in your mind. It's that pull that you pull forward. And you brought something up that I really wanted to talk about, and that's it's toxic for a lot of people to hear it's just one. Just eat the cookie, especially when your history has been, oh, it's just one. Oh, it's just one. There is good advice out there, but it's damn shit advice for you. Like, just because it's good for someone or it serves someone doesn't mean it serves you. And the same can go for fat loss advice. That could be really terrible advice for you. It could be the same as, oh, it's because you actually need to eat more. You need to bring your calories up. That could be really freaking shit advice for you too. This is where the value of coaching really freaking comes in, because there is good advice out there, but it's just trash for you. So let's talk about
that's an amazing point. That I love that you brought that up. I think it's so important. That is something that, like, as you're saying, like, fuck, you should make a video on that. It's so smart because, again, this is where individualization comes in. It's not like people are like, okay, I want the perfect macros and the perfect calories and the perfect workout. People have the wrong idea of individualization. It's not the perfect program or the perfect macros. It's really like, what's the nuance here? Like, what's the right choice for you based on where you are and your history with all of that? It's like, for one person, they might need to eat more. Well, why might they need to eat more? Maybe because they've been severely restricting for years and years and years, and they're actually underweight, or maybe they're just not eating enough and then they end up binging. But for someone else, they definitely don't need to fucking eat more. They absolutely need to eat less. And so you could have two people who often might even look somewhat similar, have completely different conversations with them as a client because they need something different. And that is absolutely where individualization and coaching comes into play. It's funny to me how most clients early on or before they've even become a client think individualization means a crazy program or the most perfect macros. No, that's not individualization. Individualization boils down to the daily habits, the small things that actually need individual attention, not the big things like yeah, if you got a knee issue, I'm going to change the type of lunge you're doing in your program. If like maybe you struggle with binge eating, I might not put you on calorie counting. I might do something else. But the vast majority of individualization really comes down to the small little nuances, the things that you struggle with individually, not the big blocks.
Yeah, and I also find that when people have that history, they have this need to make every single meal a mouthgasm.
Mm.
Like, it always has to be a party in their mouth, and then they find it difficult to reel that back. Whereas, like, I hate the term detox, but detoxing detoxing your taste buds is the best thing you can do for yourself. It's even shown in literature that vegetables, basic bland shit, can be as tasty as hell once you start to adapt to it, but you need to give yourself the chance to adapt to it instead of just flavor gasming your mouth all the time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we could really get into this topic, and I think it's important. We could even talk about this, how it relates to, let's talk about it. And I might make you uncomfortable if you're like, hey, fuck it, I want to talk about this. It's fine. But we could talk about how porn is a huge issue, especially among men. And well, why is porn a big issue? There are many reasons, but one of it is because men are seeing this crazy shit in pornography. And the more crazy shit that they see, the more that in their own personal sex life, they think they should be having this type of crazy shit. And they think that that's what normal is. right? And so it becomes often we're seeing erectile dysfunction severely impacting men at a younger and younger and younger age. They're having worse sex lives as a result of it with their partners, and less meaningful because they're seeing shit on porn that's completely skewing their view of what normal is. Well, that's exactly what's happening with food. You're eating food on a consistent basis that is completely changing your palate in regard to what is normal. And people aren't realizing that all of this food is scientifically engineered. And I don't say that lightly, I say it very deliberately. Scientifically engineered to make you want more and more and more. So then when you go back to something that's more natural, that might not taste as good as this scientifically engineered, highly palatable food, all of a sudden you're like, oh, like I don't like this. It doesn't taste as good. Yeah, no shit, it doesn't, because you're comparing it to the scientifically engineered food that is designed specifically with the right fat content and carb content and sugar content to get you to have that mouthgasm, when in reality, this more natural food will actually taste great if you take some time away from that. And this is why not watching porn is so important for men, because it can bring you back to what a normal, healthy sex relationship looks like, as opposed to looking at this nonsense that's literally just done to spike your dopamine and get you going crazy. It's the same thing with food. This food is spiking your dopamine. It's very highly palatable. And it's not that you can't ever have it, but we might need to take a break from it for a while to bring you back to a normal baseline so that you can say like, oh, wow, I didn't realize how sweet an apple really is. I didn't realize like how sweet these natural foods are, how delicious these natural foods are. It's actually going to help you with your health and with your progress and consistency over the long term.
It's actually funny because there's quite a few fruits that I can't eat because I find them way too sweet for me. And I went through a phase where I cut out pretty much all my sweeteners for a month. And I had a point where I was having 6 little tablets, like equal tablets in a coffee, to the point where now 2 and 3 is plenty for me. It's just that it was freaking hard not having that for the month. And that's the thing. It's not hard. It's tedious. It's just this little phase you need to go through. And I know you related this to jujitsu as well once, but you can bring that little part in where it's just like you still need to put in a shitload of work, and you are never really a master at your craft because there is always someone better than you. And that's why you need to focus on yourself and what is it that you can do to create those small wins for yourself. What is your marker of progress? And if you find the joy in what you're doing and you realize how much it's benefiting your life, that is when you have that stronger pull. And I really loved what you said too, because it's even on social media. Like, we're exposed to a lot of comp prep things or fast transformations that we think that that's the normal. And that's what we start to compare ourselves to. Like, it's with anything. Your version of normal is so skewed by what you're constantly fed every day. But what you're constantly fed every day, I need to find the tweet I did on this. But what you're constantly fed every day is because you're feeding yourself that internally. Type whatever you want to type in, talk whatever you want to talk on social media, and all of a sudden, open your Explore feed, and that is what you're getting fed. You talk about dogs or whatever the hell it is you talk about all the time. That is what you get on your Explore feed. Because I remember you saying that you don't like following fitness people. You don't get fitness people in your Explore feed. I remember when I was in my comp prep phase, all I was getting was cinnamon rolls in my face. All I was talking about was cinnamon rolls. And it's what your social media feed is a reflection of what you're focusing on. So change that narrative and you'll start to get fed different things. But going back to that whole cookie kind of conversation, this is also toxic with the intuitive eating, because you can't intuitively eat when you don't even know how to eat in the first place. And this is where tracking your food can actually really freaking empower you. And I guess there's a whole, but it's obsessive. It can make other people feel guilty. Like, it can make some people feel guilty for it as well. But there is so much value in tracking that food, in understanding what is within that food that then serves you later on. I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I want to ask you your thoughts on, you said it can make some people feel guilty. I want to hear, like, what do you mean by that? Because I agree with you, and I want to dive into that more deeply. So could you could you just expand on why, like, what do you mean by some people feel guilty about that?
One element is mothers. They feel like they're passing on a really bad relationship with food, but really it's because of their perception of the tracking itself. And I know that you came up with something like, but you need to track, like you need to weigh things to get the right recipe for a cake, for example. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the explanation that I give. But also the fact that, yeah, but I finally got a girl to track who fell into the health. Two girls, finally got them to track who fell into the health at every size. They had cholesterol issues. They had all these bad health markers from not tracking, from being healthy at every size as their movement. But once we started focusing on tracking, we're now focusing on more fiber. The saturated fat content of their diet was enormous. So now we're focusing on how can we get more healthful food into your diet? How can we make every plate a nutrient dense plate with obviously fitting in food you love as well? And that completely has changed their perception of tracking. But it's that part in between where the guilt sits.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made a great point. It really does depend on the person, and really, like, similar to what you were talking about before, it's your environment, right? So we'll talk about the health at every size movement. If you're heavily into the health at every size movement and everything that you're seeing is saying that calorie counting is bad, well, then yeah, you're going to be led to believe that calorie counting is bad for sure. You are now going to think, because everyone in that group is saying it's bad, you shouldn't do it, it creates disordered eating, your kids shouldn't see you doing it. It's like, hold on. And this is, I think, more of a philosophical discussion and understanding how almost everything has two sides, at least, to it, and if not more than two sides. Often it's very nuanced and it's all over the place. There's often like Venn diagrams, like some good, some bad, some in the middle, da da da. Your environment will largely dictate your view. And I mean, we can even look at politics, right? Where oftentimes kids will grow up in a house and their parents will have a certain political view, and the kid will just by default have that political view without knowing much about politics, without knowing. There's like, oh, well, that's what my environment is telling me, so I just believe them. And that's what's happening with health at every size, saying calorie counting is bad, whatever it is. So when it comes to guilt, I think a lot of times guilt is brought on by essentially being lied to or misinformed about whatever the topic is. You feel, if someone feels guilty about counting calories, it's like, okay, well, why do you feel like that? And for the mothers, well, I've been told that it's bad for my kids to see that. So why? Is it because the counting is bad, the tracking is bad, or is it because maybe your goal behind it is actually inappropriate? If I have a woman who's 5'2" and 105 pounds, and she's constantly telling her kid that she's fat and she needs to lose weight, well, it's not the calorie counting that's fucking the kid's relationship with food up. It's the constant talking about how this unbelievably small petite woman for some reason thinks she's fat and she needs to lose weight. Meanwhile, like, her daughter might be close to her mother's weight, and now she must think, well, if my mom is overweight, then I've got to be overweight, so I need to start doing this too. It's less about the action and more about the belief associated with the action.
The beliefs are really powerful, and you brought up a really important point that I really wanted to talk about, and that's identity environment being big players. And an element of this is seeing yourself as a dieter. If all you've been doing is trying to lose weight, if all you've been doing is struggling to lose weight, or only knowing shrinking, only knowing chasing small, and identifying as someone who struggles with that, how can this hold someone back? And especially after that little diet phase, when they need to go into a diet break or they need to focus on something outside of chasing small now, there can be some real issues, which is probably one of the main things that I struggle with as a coach with my clients.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree, 100%.
How can we work through that identity environment and get them to, you can't really shock change, but how can you work through those situations?
I think a lot of it has to be done in a similar way. It has to be done through discussion. And I really, I would say a Coach Jordan from, I'm 32 now, so like probably from about 9 to 11 years ago would have just been like, just trying to go for that shock. Like, just, this is what you need to believe. Just do this. But then what you have to remember is you are now having the exact same influence that the other people were having. You're essentially trying to impose your thoughts on them. And for me, I am very much aware that I very much believe in my coaching methods. I very much believe in them. I also know my coaching methods have changed a lot over the years. So I never just am assuming I'm always right and always correct, because who knows? Maybe in 5 years, something will come out and be like, oh, wow, that was completely wrong. So for me, I think the best thing is having a discussion-based format, really trying to figure out what does that person in their heart and in their gut and in their mind know is right. Because I think, call me crazy, I think inside each of us, we generally know what's right. We generally have a gut instinct telling us, like, we know what's right. For example, I've worked with many, many women who were initially sucked into the health at every size movement, like really sucked into it and really believed it. And I would have conversations. I would bring them on my podcast and talk to them about it. And I'd be like, so tell me, like, what's going on? Like, what do you like about it? What do you believe about it? And they'd say, like, well, yeah, like you can be healthy at every size. And I would ask them, like, so tell me, like, do you truly believe that someone can be healthy regardless of their size? That's something you truly believe in? And they'd be like, well, it's not as simple as that. And then they'd be able to start talking about how what the truth really was. So I very much believe each person understand on some level what's actually right and wrong for them. And yes, they need guidance and they need coaching, but I think the best coach is going to be able to facilitate a conversation that allows that client to come to the answer on their own. And it's not a simple process. It usually doesn't happen in one conversation or two conversations. In the same way, you don't change your body in one workout or two workouts. It is a long, long process. And if you've been in the wrong environment or a bad environment or a negative environment or a pessimistic environment or just a misinformation-based environment for a long time, it doesn't just happen like this, that you just come right out of it. You, as the coach, you've really got to take the time to speak with them, hear them, and allow them the opportunity to speak to find out what is truly right for them.
And as a client, you need to be willing to have these tough conversations. You need to be patient and not want the answers now, not want to relieve yourself of the pain now, because it is really hard when all you know is dieting, when all you know is struggling, when all you know is shrinking and chasing small. It is really freaking hard to change that narrative, to think of something else to chase, because you don't know anything else to chase. So be patient with yourself and be patient with your coach when you're going through this as well. And the third element of that I want to throw at you is being okay to admit when you're struggling, being okay to admit when you've relapsed, because you will relapse. It's like going to default settings. It's just continually pushing that forward narrative. And then the fear of the unknown as well, and people hating themselves stuck because they're so scared of the other side, that idea of failure, or even the chance of success. It's like, but now I have to be a different person and I don't know how to be a different person.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest reasons people struggle with this stuff is because they've made up an arbitrary timeline in their head. They've made up this idea that I need to achieve my goals in 4 weeks or 8 weeks, or oftentimes, like, I know, I'm sure you've gotten this as well. Someone's like, I'm getting married in 5 weeks. I need to lose 25 pounds. Like, all right, well, shit, you should have came to me 6 months ago, not now. If the goal was for this specific time. But something that I've learned, especially through martial arts and jiu-jitsu, is always having a white belt mentality. And one of the things I've loved about jiu-jitsu is it takes about 10 years to get your black belt, which is like, it takes longer to get your black belt than it does to go through medical school. It's a long time. And one of the things that people will say once they get their black belt is like, that's when the journey really begins. That's like when it all starts. So once you've mastered it, now actually this is when you start your journey. This is when, like, you become a white belt all over again, and you start learning again from the ground up, which is nice because it takes the stress away of, the goal is no longer trying to get the next belt, because even when you're a black belt, you still consider yourself a white belt. And I think a lot of people are rushing. They're rushing to achieve their goal. They're rushing to look a certain way. They're rushing to get to a point in which they can finally be happy with their body or whatever it is. And that's actually what's causing them stress. And that's why they end up getting so frustrated. Why don't I just get this? Why isn't it working? Why isn't this happening quickly enough? Like, quickly enough for what? Not like, let's say you achieved this goal in the next 90 days, which would be very fast. Do you really think you're all of a sudden just going to be happy with everything in your life and everything is going to be like just perfect? Of course not. There's always going to be something that you want to fix, something you want to change. This is a lifelong journey. And I think as the coach, we need to remove this timeline immediately. Be okay being a white belt. Be okay not knowing. Be okay struggling. Be okay making mistakes. It's not the end of the world. And people say, "Oh, like I just ruined all my progress and it's going to set me back." What do you mean set you back? Like if you're a figure competitor, bodybuilder and you have a show in 12 weeks, yeah, for sure. But if you're not stepping on stage and this isn't like something you're trying to make your career out of, you're just trying to live a happier, healthier life, there's no timeline here. This is a fucking forever game. So calm down, be a white belt forever and enjoy the process.
That I'm gonna get a snippet of. That is so, like, I see it everywhere. I really do. And what are you rushing to? You can get the goal body, quote unquote. You can get the goal weight. But if nothing else in your life changes, think about that. Nothing has changed. You are still going to feel the very same way. You're still going to wake up in the morning, do the very same thing, probably snooze your alarm. Cool. You're in some body that you thought you wanted. But you're never going to be happy with that. And it's funny because the leaner you get, the more you go down the dieting rabbit hole, the more picky you get about yourself, the more that you start to pull yourself apart. And I have this conversation with other people that have done what I've done and went down the competing route. We were the hardest on ourselves and we were the most insecure when we were that lean. And you brought up a really great segue to what I want to talk about, and that's what are some things that you prep people with when they are starting this journey, because that is everything you just said. Like, you are going to lose motivation. You will always have it to start with. You're going to be the most freshest to start with. You'll have all the effort, all the intensity going at it. But the motivation cycle is a cycle, and it is more down than it is up. And life happens more than, well, it is life 24/7. So let's go through that element of it along with preconceived notions that we need to crush.
Yeah, I mean, first, sort of going on to the leaner you are, the more you pick yourself apart. That's not just conjecture. That's 100% true, and there's a lot of research supporting it. That the highest levels of body dysmorphia are among people who compete in this stuff, like bodybuilders, physique competitors. Highest levels of body dysmorphia, which is crazy when you think about it, because they're the ones on all the magazines and the covers and the TV shows and the movies, and everyone looks at them like, God, they have the most perfect body. Ironically, they're also the most insecure with their bodies. This is not just saying it. There's a lot of research around it, and there's got to be a balance that you strike where you get lean enough to be healthy and happy and athletic, but not so lean that it takes over your entire life. And I actually was just talking about this recently with a buddy, where I sit around between like 14 to 16% body fat. And I work out all the time and I eat very well. But if I dropped my body fat to about 12 or below, I would start noticing me thinking about my body more, and my relationship with food would deteriorate. I know that for a fact because every time I get to about 12% body fat, that's when I start to notice those thoughts coming in. So for me personally, it makes no sense to try and get to a lower body fat from here, because I know what's going to happen. I've been doing this game a long time. So for me, it's part of the journey. And I know a lot of people, they want to do one cut. They want to lose weight once, and they want to just, that's it. They've arrived. It's like, good luck. That's not how this fucking works. This is a lifelong thing. You lose weight, you gain some back, you lose it again. It's like, you shouldn't be going up and down 50 pounds, but it's a little bit of here and there. It's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It's like a pinball game, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And this is what fitness is. This is what maintenance is. You're learning about yourself. You're learning about your body. It's sort of like when you get married, you don't expect the marriage to just stay like this the whole time. Like, there's ups, there's downs, there's ups and downs. You ideally want to avoid the major swings, but there's like good days and bad days and rough days and great days. And like, that's how it works. Same thing with fitness. So when someone comes to me and I'm prepping them from the very beginning, like, what can you expect? I'll always say, listen, Number one, we need to remove the timeline from this. There is no time. And that's actually why when I was doing one-on-one coaching, the minimum time requirement was a minimum of 6 months. I was like, I will not work with anybody who is not willing to work with me for at least 6 months. Because when I first started, I was doing 1 month, and that was a shit show. You do a minimum 1 month commitment. By week 2 or 3, they're like, I don't have a six pack yet, so they quit. And then I did 2 months, then I did 3 months. In 3 months, I started to see real differences in people's mentalities and emotion and time. And I was like, listen, the longer the better. So I moved it to 6 months. I did try a year, but a year was a little bit too long in terms of, not in terms of the time they need to achieve their goal, but in terms of it's a big commitment for people to do a year in their mind mentally. So I just saw people, the rate of people joining went down. So I was like, cool, I'll do 6 months. So minimum 6 month commitment. That was by far the best I ever had in terms of people understanding this is going to be a very long time and getting them to automatically change that perspective. So before I even gave them the pep talk of, hey, what's going to happen, they knew they were in for the long haul because it was at least 6 months. And there were no refunds. Like you don't get a refund at the end of it. This is you're paying for coaching. This is it. So you need to be in for it for the long haul. From there, the pep talk is, listen, it's going to take longer than you want. It's going to be harder than you want. You're going to make mistakes. These are like, this isn't a get, like you will make mistakes. It is going to be a very difficult journey. It's going to take longer than you want. But if you don't quit, you will achieve your goal. That's it. That's all I say. That's at the beginning. And I will repeat that over and over and over and over. And then sometimes they'll email me. They'll be really frustrated. Oh my God, I ate too much last night. Remember what I said before we signed on together? It's going to be longer than you want. It's going to be harder than you want. You will make mistakes, but as long as you don't quit, you will achieve your goals. And I'll screenshot these emails and be like, listen, I told you this in December. It's April now. I told you this was going to happen. So like, and you agreed. You're like, okay, I know. And that's one of the reasons I love having all of this via email. It's like I can screenshot, send, and like let them know, like you agreed to this. So keep fucking going. And that can be one of the major ways that I'll try and help.
Whenever we set intentions, whenever we set goals, whenever we have this idea of what the journey or progress or process will look like, we set it from a perception of our highest motivated self. We set it from a perception of like seeing things as fine and dandy versus there are going to be things coming up. It's not like, it's almost like when you go to sleep at night, you have all the best intentions for the day because you're reflecting on the day that was. And it's like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. But as soon as bang, the alarm goes off, shit's back into its normal cycle again. And it's going to take a while to reinforce that same habit, which is why having those realistic expectations, knowing that you will slip up, knowing that it is going to get hard. I think a lot of people also, again, with social media and it's the wrong message for you, bro, is really damaging because it shouldn't be hard. It should be easy. Do this, do that. Oh, but it should look like. So people are now fighting resistance. They're fighting the hard. Just because it's hard does not mean you don't do it. Like, once you have that direction, shit is going to be hard.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot harder than you think because the people that you're comparing yourselves to, the people that make it look easy, they've been doing it for years. They don't have the same lifestyle baggage holding them down the ladder that you're trying to crawl up.
Yeah, 100%. Well said.
So now talking about the person that is trying to start, I'm going to give you like different scenarios now. One of the people that, let's go to the I fell off the wagon, I'm so ashamed. What would you say to that person? Feeding into the last part.
I'd say like, what wagon? Like, what do you mean you fell off the wagon? And then they'd explain and they'd be like, well, I ate too much. And maybe it was one day or the whole weekend or a week or a month. And I always say, listen, there are people who spend their entire lives, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years not working out, eating like shit, being severely overweight. And then they come to me after 70 years of their whole life, never doing this stuff. And they lose 150 pounds and they feel great and they live longer and they're healthier because of it. And you're going to tell me that because you overate on one day or one weekend or 1 week or 1 month or 1 year that you're ashamed? Like, get the fuck out of here. People spend their entire lives not doing the right thing, and then change. So shut the fuck up, get back on track, and that's it.
I love that. What do you say to the person who is trying to start at level 10 versus the level that they're at?
That's interesting, mainly because if I'm working with them as a client, I'm not letting them start there. It's like it's set from the beginning. Like, hey, I'm sending them their program. They're doing my program. I have had clients try and add more, or like I've had a number of clients that are trying to do my program, and then they're like, hey, I'm going to add CrossFit on top of this, and I'm like, all right, well, listen, here's what I say. I was like, listen, you signed up for my program, and you're paying me for my program. If you're adding extra on top of my program, then you are no longer doing my program. And you are no longer allowed to be upset with a lack of progress if you are not following the program that I sent you. And so from there, then they have a sort of a hard decision. Like, all right, do I want to keep doing this because I feel like I want to, or do I want to follow the program that I'm being paid for? Because I'm essentially giving them the opportunity to get mad at me. I'm saying, if you follow my program and you don't see results, that's my fault. Then I did something wrong. And you're welcome to blame me. But if you're not following my program because you're adding a whole bunch of other shit, you can't ever get mad at me because you're not following my program. And that's usually the way that I'll approach it and be like, listen, I gave you this for a reason. This isn't for shits and giggles. I deliberately made this specifically for you. So either you follow it or you don't. If you don't follow it, you don't get to complain.
That also covers the person who wants to keep doing more, the person who wants to speed up the rungs before you actually solidify each one. Because it's very easy to just have it wobbling in the little cracks without it being like fortified. You need to fortify your base before you climb up again.
That's
How about the person that doesn't want to put themselves first?
That's a tough one. And I was literally just talking with a member of mine yesterday about it who has guilt because she's a mother and she feels guilty for taking time away from her kids. And another one of my members commented back to her as well. But the major thing that I said was like, listen, when your kids get older, they're going to be very upset with you if you didn't take time for yourself, because your kids love you just like you love them. And they want you to be able to take time for yourself because they know you can't pour from an empty cup. They know that, like, in order for you to be your best self, you need to get healthy. You need to have time to yourself. You need that. So you might be able to convince yourself now that you're doing the right thing because you get to spend more time with them, but you're actually hurting yourself and your relationship with them. Not to mention, there's a difference between spending more time and spending more quality time. Big, big difference. Imagine like you go on a date with someone, right? And you're on a date, and the whole time the person is just on their phone, texting the whole time. You're technically spending time with them, but it's not quality time. That's shit time. And often that will happen in households or relationships because you spend so much time together that it's like, it's just more time. So you get very little quality time, but you get a lot of not quality time. When you take time away, the old phrase, absence makes the heart grow fonder. When you have a limited time with someone, well, now that quality time becomes far more important. And now you'll actually sit down, you'll listen to what they say. It's funny, if I have a day where I'm just like, I'm in my office downstairs. If I have a day where I'm like upstairs the whole day with my wife and daughter, it's very easy for me to periodically throughout the day just like go on my phone, not pay attention to them. But if I have a day like today where I'm working a lot, then in the morning before I work and then in the evening and night after I work, I've got amazing quality time with them. I spend so much more quality time with them because I have limited time now. So I think the idea that like you just need to spend more and more and more and more time with them is actually hurting your relationship because you're often taking it for granted and you're not doing what you need to do. Not to mention, especially when it comes to kids, they need to see you prioritizing health and fitness. If you want your kids to grow up and be healthy, you better fucking show them what that means and what it means to prioritize that, because they're going to model their behaviors after yours.
You can't really force someone or show someone you can't tell someone how to change or how to do things. You show them. It's more like the whole monkey see, monkey do thing. I loved that you brought that part up. How about the person who has a lot going on with life? Things are always popping up. How can you get them to then show up for themselves, knowing that that is actually going to help them with those other things in life, feeling better about themselves instead of keeping themselves in the same cycle?
Yeah, and this will be the last one because I got to hop off after this. But for that person, it's really about finding. For me, it's the lowest hanging fruit. The person who's super busy, they have a lot going on. I'm like, listen, what's the number one thing this person needs that's going to have the biggest positive effect on their life? And usually it's some type of walking, some type of exercise. That's what I'll start with because everybody I if and again some people get mad at me. Well, not everyone can walk. Correct, not everyone can walk. When I say walking, it's another way of saying movement. So if you're in a wheelchair, like being able to just move around, being able to roll around in the wheelchair, like that's great. If you have the ability to walk, then walking around your apartment, walking around your house, getting outside, taking a phone call, whatever it is, just walk, just move more on a consistent basis. And the best part about that is once you start doing that, you immediately feel better. No one ever moves and then feels like shit. Like everyone knows the old classic saying, your endorphins increase when you go out and you start moving. It's real and it's cliche and it's like almost people are desensitized to hearing it now, but it's true. So you start walking more, you start moving more. All of a sudden, like you're gonna feel better. Now you're gonna eat better. You're gonna have better relationships. It's gonna be more worth it for you to go to bed earlier, get a good night's sleep. You start focusing on other things. So I think walking is the gateway drug to better health and fitness.
It's the like it is not only beneficial for you body composition wise, but with everything. Like it honestly leads to wanting more for yourself. Like walk. We talked about it on podcast 240, the last podcast with Jordan. Please go listen to that one again. Listen to the one with Susan again. I thank you so much for coming on. And it's Jordan. All you need to do is go onto Google, type his name in, and you have the world come up at your fingertips with everything you need to know. So go to Google. And thank you so much for coming on. Also, please check his stories as well if you have any basic questions on motivation. He's always answering questions on motivation in his stories. So give that a little look as well. I'm going to put his handle below, but honestly, just Google machine. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with?
No, I think you're amazing. You're a great coach. You're a great host. I appreciate you having me on again. It's been a wonderful blessing to get to talk to you again, and I appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a really amazing day.
Thank you. You as well. Bye.